Hi, welcome to NCLIN 302. This is Health Assessment, your first quarter in nursing school at the UW School of Nursing. This lecture will go over the basics of what to expect from this course. So, introduction to the faculty, the purpose of the course, and grading, which is always on everybody's mind. As far as answering questions, obviously I can't do that in a recorded lecture, but I can answer questions on email I prefer to be emailed through the Canvas inbox system, and also by office hours by appointment. If you want to reach me there, you can ask me a question in class. Course faculty is just me. I'm the lead faculty of the lecture. There are instructors of the lab, but as far as coordinating the course, I'm the only one teaching. My maiden name was Taby, so you'll still find that around some places, like my email, which is dmtaby. My office is 608D. It's at the far west end of the T wing on the 6th floor. So when you go down to the bathrooms, my office is on the front hall just around the corner. And I don't hold standard office hours. I do welcome students to make appointments with me. The reason I don't have standard office hours is because I find that no one really comes to that. I've actually never had a student come to set office hours, surprisingly. So don't let that stop you, though. I am available to meet with you. For this course, you need to check Canvas often. So Canvas is the course web page. A lot of our communications these days are electronic, and you're responsible for keeping up with those. And I know you have 5 courses, and it's a lot to keep up with. So early in the quarter, figure out some kind of a system that works for you. If it's setting a calendar reminder on your cell phone or something, make sure that you're reminded to check the course websites and check your email multiple times a week. For the course assignments and the readings and such, check those on the course website each week. Don't print out all the pages and then go from paper, because things do get updated throughout the quarter. I find errors, I improve things, I add materials for you. Be sure that you get the most up-to-date information. And on Canvas, it usually shows if a page has been updated. Do check your email often. You've already heard that you can't forward it to your personal email. That's a violation of the privacy regulations because of our affiliation with the hospital. So be sure that you remember to check your email several times a week. I really try hard not to overload you with messages, and so I'll usually wait until I have a couple of things. I try not to send more than one message a week, if that much. Most of the communications will be on the website, especially through the announcements tab. Back to this. That's an error saying that I use the course listserv. That was from an old version of the course. There isn't a listserv. I actually use Canvas, and you get a feed to your email from Canvas. Some key points. The course is 5 credits. It's numerically graded. This is an NCLIN course, so it counts, the lab hours count as clinical time as far as our school is concerned, and it really is clinical time. You're applying practical nursing skills. You'll be in lecture about 3 hours a week. It's 2 hours 50 minutes plus a 10-minute break in the middle, and I'm very good about giving you your break. I think that's only fair, and I'm also good about ending on time. And so I ask you to be on task until the end, because I will let you go on time. But please don't start packing up early, because it's very distracting. Lab is 3.5 hours. You have to be there for the whole lab. No practicing quick and getting out early. Everybody has to stay for the whole lab. Again, that's 3 hours and 20 minutes plus breaks. And the lab, it really is crucial time for you to practice the skills. Independent learning time is expected because it's college, and that's the way college works. You have homework and reading and all that stuff. You'll have web-based videos to watch. You've bought the video package, so that's one thing that you'll do to prepare for lab. You'll spend time practicing. The Learning Lab actually has extra hours that you can go in and practice. That's not required, but I encourage you to take advantage of the time if you need it. Study time, the standard for the university is 3 hours per 1 hour class. That's not my standard. That's how courses are credited. And that's really mostly for the lecture course that they're talking about. So that would be about 9 hours a week for this course. You won't always need that, but I say that to emphasize that you need to prioritize study time. You've got a lot of classes. They are all going to take a lot of time, and you need to work to set aside time to do the readings and prep. The lecture objectives, so there's a lecture and a lab component to this course. The objectives are really similar between the two. The lecture is going to focus on nursing process, so that's the stepwise approach to examining your patient and then deciding what to do with that information. We'll talk about that early in the quarter. We'll incorporate some developmental factors, so what differs in children or older adults or pregnant women. Communication techniques will be important for gathering information, building rapport with your patients or your practice partner, and also for completing the exam, the physical examinations. You'll be expected to develop minimal competency in performing physical examinations, so that's important. You're not expected to be an expert by the end of the class, but you're expected to be competent. And then there's some other principles of health and wellness that we'll be talking about throughout, as well as professional values. The lab objectives are similar: applying the nursing process, using good communication, performing the skills safely. And then there's also expectations that you are behaving up to a professional standard. Of course, you're learning at this point, so we don't expect you to be perfect, but we're looking for you to organize your time effectively and demonstrate professional accountability. And part of those two objectives is coming to lab on time, coming prepared, so you've done your reading, you're ready to dive in and not floundering for what you need to be doing. You're coming with the materials that you should have, so there are printouts that you need to have in lab every week to help you with your practice, and that you're coming in professional attire. You're coming to lab in your scrubs and with your gown ready to be the nurse role or the patient role. Lecture is on Thursdays and Fridays. Lucky us, we get to be together at the last day on Friday. So I'll try to keep it interesting and not just be talking for that session. And I try to do that for the class anyway. I try to make it interesting and applicable. We're in the same room both days, which is nice. The format of lecture, there will be traditional lecture, so I will be explaining topics to you. It won't be a full review of what's in the book, but more of an application and guiding you through it. I do a lot of demonstrations in class, and I have some in-class learning exercises, so you'll have little small groups and just kind of do exercises to apply the principles that we've been going over. Labs are on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. There are 6 lab groups. You'll be meeting your instructors next week. The attendance policy, I like to remind people of because folks sign it and then forget about it. You are expected to attend every lab. That is mandatory. If you're sick, please don't come. Don't infect other people. It's good judgment to not come in sick, but you do need to contact your lab instructor before the lab starts if you're sick. Other reasons for missing, unless it's an extraordinary circumstance, other reasons for missing lab will not be excused. The final week, students are expected to be here. You need to be available. Don't buy a plane ticket without talking to all of your faculty. Sometimes students need that full week to meet the course objectives, especially if someone's having a hard time with some of the parts of the course. And also a word about being in town. The folks that have Wednesday lab before Thanksgiving have to be in lab. There will be no excused absences for leaving town early before Thanksgiving. Lab activities include practicing the skills. The instructors will not be giving full demonstrations. You should have already seen the demonstrations twice. I'll be showing them in class and you'll be watching the videos. So in lab, you might get clarification, but most of the time is going to be spent practicing with coaching. So the teaching assistants and the instructors will be circulating and helping you, but they're not going to be fully demonstrating the whole system exam because you've already seen it. There are resources for learning abnormals. In the lab, most of your exams on each other will be oriented towards healthy people. But we have some simulators that have abnormal heart sounds, lung sounds, some other things. You're expected to bring your lab guide and your course textbook to class each week. Those have the explanations to guide you through the interview and the examinations that you'll be doing. So that is part of participation. That is required, that you bring those materials. If you have an e-text, you need to either have it on a tablet, work with somebody else to share a book. You have to have the material available in some form, and it can't be on your cell phone. Cell phones have to be stowed during the lab time, and that's to practice the standard that's in place at most clinical settings. I actually don't know of a clinical setting that will let you use a cell phone in the patient care areas. There may be some, but most of them don't. It's also really, really hard to read your textbook on a cell phone, so that's not an option in the lab. If you do have a tablet or something like that, you need to be on task with it. If the lab instructors or the TAs find that you're doing something off task, like Facebook or personal email, not on a break, then you'll have to stow the tablet and we'll have to have a talk about professional behavior. Grading is based on the lab and the lecture. Most of the points come from the lecture because that's where you're learning the content. The lab is really application and practice. You have to earn a 2.0 in the class. That's for the total course grades. So that's the points earned in lecture and lab. In addition, you have to earn a 70% or higher on the comprehensive final exam. Even if you have a passing average in the course and you fail the final, you will not pass the class, so don't blow off the final. I'm not doing you or patients a service by passing anyone who hasn't demonstrated that they've mastered this material. This is crucial to nursing. And 70% really is a very reasonable bar. And you have to earn 75% of the lab points and pass the vital signs checkoff and the head-to-toe demonstration to pass the course. Here's the breakdown of points. There's some participation points in the lecture. And the participation points will be kind of randomly. They won't come up every lecture. They'll come up some lectures. And there will be more than 6 points, but 6 will count. So that means that you could miss 1 or 2 and not be penalized for it, but you need to be coming to the lecture so you can get these points. This is a reward for people that go to lecture. There are 2 homework assignments to apply what you learned in lecture. They're 2 points each. Obviously, they're not a lot of points, so they're not like a term paper. They're thinking exercises. There are 3 exams. The first one is covers the content for weeks 1 through 3. Second one is the content of weeks 4 through 7. The final is half on weeks 1 through 7, half on weeks 8 through 11. So it emphasizes more the material that hasn't been covered previously, but it has a large chunk on prior material. And then the lab is 20 points. The 20 lab points are based on, there are a couple of points for participation and attendance. So be prepared, show up with all the stuff you need. There are actually 11 write-ups, but the first one doesn't get any points. It's required, but it's practice. And then the other 10 are 1 point each. It's not one write-up a week. Some weeks there are 2, some weeks there are 1. It depends on how the material falls. You won't have more than 2 on a week. And these shouldn't take a ton of time. You'll be working from the examples in the book. Your final health history and physical exam write-up comes at the end of the quarter. You'll have had a lot of practice writing stuff up by then. The vital signs checkoff, so we will validate that you're doing vital signs correctly by the second or third week of the quarter, because you'll be using that quickly in clinical. We want to make sure people are prepared. And then the final head to toe, this is really what some people call a shift assessment. It's the head to toe quick exam that a nurse would do when taking over care of a patient. So it's not a full in-depth physical like you might get in a situation like from a physician who hasn't worked with you before or something like that. You'll be learning a lot of skills that won't be in the final head to toe, because you need those in your toolkit in case you need to examine patients in more depth than the basic exam. But the final head to toe is pretty straightforward. It's based on chapter 28 of your Jarvis text if you want to get a sense for what's in it. Equipment, you need to have a stethoscope. You should have already discussed that in NCLIN 306. And for the people that get the fancy Littmans, we'll have to talk about how to use that, because I find a lot of people don't use it correctly. But you do need a stethoscope with a diaphragm and a bell. You need a watch with either a second hand or a second counter, somehow that you can count pulse and respirations. Actually, you don't need to buy your own pen light for this course. I'm sorry, that's an error. We have those in the lab. You do need your UW name tag and your scrubs, and to wear those in the lab. Check Canvas each week for what to bring to lab. And do be prepared every week to change into a patient gown. Please don't leave them in the lab. A lot of people forget them, and that creates more laundry, and it causes us trouble tracking equipment. Be careful to take your lab with you, your gown with you at the end of lab. Quick word on essential qualifications. Do review this document. It's linked here in this PowerPoint, and it's also linked from the syllabus. These are the basic requirements of nursing students. These are national standards. They weren't made up by our school. Professional behaviors are important throughout this class, especially in the lab. We expect you to act like you would in a clinical setting, because this is practice to develop good habits. And you can read through this slide. I have the slide set posted in addition to this YouTube video. A word on social media. Social media is everywhere. I love it. I use Twitter and Facebook and Google Plus and all that stuff, but it doesn't really have a place in patient care. You should never affiliate with your patients on social media. It's just not appropriate, and you will get in big trouble here and at the institution where you're doing clinical if anyone finds out that's happened. So no emailing, no Facebooking, no contact, no social contact with patients. It's just not appropriate. As far as social media in the school, I don't associate with students while they're my student. You know, if you get out of school and you still want to be my Facebook friend, that's cool. That's fine. But just for the sake of being fair, not showing favoritism, not having my evaluation of your performance clouded by things that aren't relevant to your school performance, I just don't accept friend requests on Facebook and such. I'm flattered, but it's nothing personal. I just don't accept them, and it's actually in everyone's benefit. And then be very careful not to use any kind of slang, especially abbreviations when you're charting. The language is everywhere. It's easy to slip into bad habits. It sounds like a no-brainer, but you need to be careful about it. So that's it for the quick orientation. I'll show you a couple of last things before I conclude this. The first is the syllabus. So actually, let me get into the student view. I get to see more things in Canvas under the instructor view, but I want you to see this as it would look to you. So this is the student view of the Canvas course. The home page is the syllabus. Do read through it. It's got a lot of useful information, the objectives of the course, the lecture objectives, the lab objectives. Let's see. A lot of what I've already covered on behavior and attendance. And really, you need to be on time to lab. If there's anything we have trouble with behavior-wise in lab, it's people being late. The textbooks are listed here. It's pretty straightforward what they are. Like I've told a lot of people, if you buy the 5th edition of the textbook is fine, but you have to figure out the pages. I'm not going to go back and figure out how the material aligns. But honestly, they didn't really change it a whole lot by the 6th edition. Required equipment, we've already talked about. Academic integrity. There's not a lot of chances in this course to plagiarize. And don't worry about, when you're writing your chart note, you're going to be using language that's really standard. So it's not really plagiarism unless you're not thinking and just copying word for word. But in the School of Nursing, we have had trouble with students not understanding plagiarism. Anytime you use an idea and don't credit it, it's plagiarism. Usually when this happens, it's unintentional. And the consequences will vary. A lot of times when it's unintentional, what I would do is have a student redo the assignment. If it is intentional, the consequences are more serious and may result in even no credit for the assignment. So read this policy and educate yourself on what plagiarism is. Communication, like I said, I like to communicate through the Canvas inbox. I'm going to scroll back up to the top of the page, and where it says test student up here, that's where the inbox would normally be. So I have lots of email from lots of different things in my regular email. I like using the Canvas inbox because it keeps all the course emails in one place. It's just much easier for me to track. We talked about the grading, I think, in enough detail. That's laid out here. The exams will use a MarkSense sheet. You need the full-sized sheet, not the little half sheets they sell at the bookstore. You need a number 2 pencil. If for some reason you couldn't take the exam in case of an emergency or something, you got to contact me before the exam. Makeup exams are always a different version. I never give the same exam if somebody has to make one up. The grade scheme is straightforward, and I have lots of A's every year. Plenty of people do really well in this class. Then at the bottom, you'll see all the assignments listed out. These will also pop up on your course calendar, so this is a really good place to check if you have something coming up that's due. It's got the lab assignments, so all the chart notes, the checkoffs are listed, any write-ups that you have to turn in when the exams come up. I tried to make it as easy as possible because I know you have a lot to track. Scrolling back up to the top of the page, I'm going to show you the calendar. So this tab, there are the 4 tabs up here. You click on calendar, and it populates with the courses that you've selected over here on the right side of the page. Here I'm going to scroll over to October. Come on. Well, it's taking a minute here. Oh, it didn't scroll on the main page. Here we go. You'll see that I've listed, it pops up in your calendar, the chart note. Here's the vital signs check off that we're going to do in week 3. Your chart notes from lab, and these will show up when they're due for your section. So people who have lab on Tuesday, their chart notes are due by 5 p.m. on Thursday. People who have lab on Wednesday, their chart notes are due by 5 p.m. on Friday. So you have 2 days to do your chart note. The instructors will let you know how they want them turned in. They might want them on paper, they might want them by email. And then let's go back to the course web page itself. It's not going to let me back out of it. Here we go. One last thing I want to mention here is that we have a counselor at the School of Nursing. There's a link down here. Her name is Kathleen Jennings, and it's not just for people with having some kind of strain, or if you have a serious problem. You don't have to wait for that or even have that at all to see her. She helps people manage student life and, how to take on school in the context of your whole life. She's wonderful. I've never heard anyone be sorry for going in talking with her. So I really encourage you to take advantage of that resource. Kathleen is fantastic. The last thing I want to show you is where to find the videos. So this is the Evolve website. I'm going to bring up evolve.elsevier.com. And this is what the main page looks like. I'm going to log in here at the upper right. And you get this entry page that might or might not have some things come up on it. What you want is this, the Physical Examination and Health Assessment Video Series Version 2, First Edition. It is aligned, it says 5th edition. That's because they update the textbooks and the video series. They kind of leapfrog the updating. So they've updated the textbook, but they have not yet updated the video series. That's why it still says 5th edition. Don't worry about that. It's not an error. Then on the right-hand side, down kind of at the bottom, I'm sorry, left-hand. I have trouble with left and right. Left-hand side down at the online video library. Click into that. Before you begin is really good to look at because it'll tell you the computing requirements. If you need a Mac, like what to set up on your Mac, what browser, or your PC, what browsers it works in. If you need plugins, it goes through all that. And then the online video series you just click into, and it's got the videos here. As I recall, I don't think this works on Apple mobile products. I think this might be a Flash-based thing. I'm not certain about that, but don't be surprised if that's the case. So then you would just click into the video, and you can either click to start at the beginning, or you can jump around by the tabs. All right, that concludes the introduction to the course. I hope that was helpful. Drop me a note if you have any other questions, and I'll see you on Thursday.